Muhammad Ali, one of my great heroes, had a great line in the 70s when he was asked, how many sit-ups do you do? He said, I don't count my sit-ups. I only start counting when it starts hurting. When I feel pain, that's when I start counting, because that's when it really counts. That's what makes you a champion.
Jerry, I'm the greatest fighter that ever stepped foot in the ring. Nothing will be lost that night. This will be the biggest upset in the century of all boxing.
Welcome. Episode 5 of Mike on the Mic. This is an interactive live show. Thank you for tuning in on Facebook. Thank you for also listening on rtfsportsnetwork.com and on all the sports platforms. So this is kind of a spin-off show. If you can see the poster, like I said, this is a live show as well if you are listening, or the hat. It's a spin-off show from Twist, The Week in Sports Talk. If you have not seen Twist, The Week in Sports Talk, I'd slap you silly. You better get on at Twist Sports Talk on all the social media and check out that show immediately following Mike on the Mic, obviously. So I got a fun show planned for you. We are going to kick it off with an interview with a comic here. So we're gonna bring him right on.
Hello.
Bryan Miller, how you doing today, man?
Not too bad. Good to be here. I'm a little. I'm just a tiny bit hungover because I had my first shows in 3 months last night. So Friday and Saturday. So yeah,
good.
It's been a while since I tied one on at the comedy club.
Well, tied one on and then tied one off after, maybe.
Yeah, I don't really remember the after part, but I definitely woke up with a headache at about 9 o'clock.
Where were the shows at yesterday?
They were at Acme downtown. Yeah, it was great. It was the last Zoom show they're doing. I mean, you can still zoom in and see the shows, but this was Zoom only, so it was like an empty room basically.
Okay.
But then next week they're opening the club back up to seating, so you can get 75 people in there. So you can still go on Zoom and watch the Acme shows, but there's going to be a live crowd in there, and so that'll be like a regular show. That's
awesome. You know, that's one thing with everything getting back to normal right now. People are so used to Zoom that's what they want to do. Mm-hmm. Like, let's get the Zoom stocks down and get back to life as normal. You know,
yeah, totally.
People still want to use Zoom, and it's like, I'm not using it anymore. Things are open. Like, get out and do something.
Right.
So do you have like a comedy strategy, you know, for this kind of isolation and pandemic and the Zoom and all that? Is that kind of your opening up stuff as things are getting back to normal, or are you using old material? What's going on?
A little bit of both, because I was headlining last night, so I was doing 45 minutes. But I have about 20 minutes of new material. So there's some jokes that feel a little weird to do now, because you can't be like, so I was at a restaurant last week with my wife. I mean, eventually that stuff will come back and it won't seem weird, right? Once just regular life is back to closer to normal, then you can do this stuff. But I also just wrote a ton of jokes during the quarantine, so it was nice to get to try all those out. And they were all pretty much about quarantine and the rioting and all that, so.
Well, it is funny, you know, when you add it to what's going on. I mean, really, it is pretty comical what we've been having to deal with. If you have a sense of humor, if you don't, it's horrible.
It helps to have a dark sense of humor on this one.
Yeah, no doubt. So we're speaking with Bryan Miller, comedian. You can find him on Twitter at The Real Bryan Miller. So you're a big deal then, since you're at The Real Bryan Miller, right?
Yeah, there was this guy. It was a magician. I think he might be retired now. But when I started comedy, there was a magician with my name, and I would show up to shows, and they wouldn't do a great job of checking who was coming, and so they would get his picture. And so I would show up, and he wore this really douchey hat, like this fedora, and he had this really long hair. And I would show up, and I'm like, oh god. And then they would see me, and they're like, "You're not that guy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm the real Bryan Miller."
Yeah, and then there's a decent writer named Bryan Miller as well, who wrote for that show Smallville, and he wrote comic books. And so I don't mind getting mixed up with him quite as much, but I just got tired of getting mixed up with both of them. So. And
you're with a Y. You're not an I. You're a Y guy.
Yeah, I think the Smallville writer is a Y guy, but the magician was definitely an I.
So I mentioned at the beginning of the show, kind of our main show that we do. All three hosts have done spin-off shows, and mine is obviously Mike on the Mic, but we did our first episode from a Minneapolis studio, MBC Studios, and met a guy named Gabe, who's a comedian. So I name dropped you, said you were going to be on the show today, and he said you knew each other well.
Oh yeah, we started comedy right around the same time. I think he started maybe like 6 months or a year before me, but I started about coming up on 12 years ago. I think that sounds about right. 2008. Yeah, I've known Gabe for a long time. In fact, when we did the Acme's Funniest Person contest, which was a big deal every year for new comics, and I got 4th and he got 2nd. So we were neck and neck. We lost to our friend John Conroy.
Okay.
Who's very funny.
Well, to be 4th and 2nd, that's pretty good. I'm sure he gives you crap for beating you by a couple.
Yeah, not lately though, because he needs me to guest host his podcast every now and then.
So it's
a beautiful, beautiful studio.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that was our first one there yesterday, and then moving forward, we're going to be doing it, kind of refining our show a little bit and bringing it in. All of our spin-offs will be, either out of our houses or like I am now. We can't afford to bring those shows there as well. It's spendy, but well worth it. So
yeah, and Tevin's a great dude. He used to be the manager at House of Comedy way back in the day.
Yeah,
so I've known Tevin for years too. And Brittany is my co-host on my podcast, Minnesota, which is a Minnesota news podcast.
Cool. And you're doing that out of there?
No, we just do that out of our house right now. But at some point, I'm sure we'll transition into using the studio when it's more convenient.
Minnesota, where can people find that at?
iTunes, Stitcher, Buzzsprout also. But yeah, mainly iTunes and Stitcher are the two best ones. Yeah, Minnesota podcast, just like it sounds, spelling-wise.
Awesome. And for the people listening and watching that are starting to get excited about going out and doing stuff, where can we come see you and get a couple laughs?
I will be at the Comedy Corner Underground next weekend, Friday and Saturday, with Emily Galati, my writing partner, who's a fantastic comic. We're each going to do 45-minute headline sets back to back. It'll be the second week of shows at Comedy Corner Underground. Mike Brody was there, I think, this week. So
45 minutes. That's intense.
I'm used to it now, but I tell you what, these Zoom shows at Acme that I did, doing 45 minutes to literally nobody, that's a lot of time. And I mean, there are people watching right on Zoom, but you're not getting reaction. So you're just in a room talking by yourself for 45 minutes.
And what's kind of your style of comedy?
I mean, I'm pretty conversational, and I mostly just talk about stuff in my life, but I talk to the crowd a lot, and I really feed off the crowd a bunch. So that being said, when there's no crowd, it forces you to switch up your game a little bit.
I had Josh Florhog on last week and kind of asked him. He's a little more passive when it comes to his, comedy style. So, as far as roasting people, I had mentioned, guy walks in with a pink polo and has his collars popped. Is he fair game for you immediately?
I love to talk to the crowd, but I don't do a lot of roasting. I mean, every now and then it kind of happens, but I kind of like to just ask people questions and find out. There's always something really interesting about everybody, and if you can get to that quickly, that becomes fun. So I try to encourage people to know that I'm pretty aggressive on stage, but not at the crowd, So I try to let people know hey, if I ask you a question, it's not like a setup. It's not like I'm gonna that was just so I could get you to say this, so I can do that. I really want to know the answer, and once people know that and they relax, it's great. I used to have this. I don't always. I work clean sometimes, but I had this kind of interesting joke about how many dongs that you see in real life, whether you want to or not, especially if you play sports or in the military. And I just asked the crowd, how many dongs have you seen? Everyone shout out your number. And just by saying that, some people shout out amazing numbers. With one time in the front row, this really pretty, really well put together woman just yells at 80. And then her boyfriend turns to her. He's like, "What?" And they got in a fight in the front row.
Oh man!
So then I had to moderate the fight a little bit. I was like, "No, that's not. Don't shame her. It's fine." And we talked it out. And then now they come to my shows every year when I'm back at Acme.
Oh, that's fantastic. Do you ever do the Rick Bronson? I have a few comedy passes that are sitting in my desk over here that I'm waiting to use. So
yeah, I've done that. They're doing showcases right now with groups of comics doing 15 minutes. So yeah, I'll probably be back there at some point. I've done that many times, especially back when Tevin was manager.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I appreciate you coming on. You can find him again at the bottom there at Real Bryan Miller, and I will definitely check out your podcast, Mini Sorta. Oh, we got 80 dongs from Wisconsin.
That's a low number in Wisconsin. That's just one pool party.
Yeah, no kidding. Drunken Scotties over there. All right, Bryan. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll chat soon. I'll let you know. I'll keep following you. I'll let you know when you're around and when I'm coming. We can meet in person.
Yeah, definitely. Pop out to a show. We'll have a beer.
All right, appreciate it.
Cool. Catch you later, Mike.
Bryan Miller. Funny guy. I was watching some of his stuff earlier, and yeah, he's good. I love how everybody kind of has a different comedic style, and mostly all of them fit mine because I'm just a nerd like that. So let's kick off the show. Mike on the mic with Mic'd Up. Some headlines for you. U.S. Marshals and the Drug Enforcement Agency seized guns from the home of Las Vegas Raiders running back Lynn Bowden Jr. When Bowden was asked to comment on it, he couldn't because he was in jail. Reportedly, Zion Williamson should have been permanently ineligible at Duke. That's like saying Tyrone Biggums should have stopped smoking crack. Ex-twin Denard Span retires because principles weren't met. He sat out last season and hasn't received a contract he felt worthy of. What he was really trying to say is that I'm making more money on unemployment right now than any contract I can get. LeBron James questions whether lines in Georgia primaries are a result of systematic racism. When asked what the longest he had to wait was, he said, "I'm LeBron James. I don't wait for shit." Free agent Cam Newton looks fully healthy in latest Instagram post. He commented on the post that he figures the reason he's still without a team is because no general manager follows him. And if they did, they could tell by his pictures that he was fully healthy. All right, Cam. Well, that is your mic'd up for this week. Some sports headlines and some one-liners. Yes. Again, we are a live interactive show. I'm not a nerd. I'm definitely a little cheesy, but not as cheesy as the guy. I always do this wrong. Right there. Nope. Right. God damn it. Green Bay Greg. He's more cheesy than I am. So I've been stealing a bit from one of our other spin-off shows, Benzie's Bit. It's Mic'd Up Steals Benzie's Bit. He likes to go and do a top 5 of fantasy breakdowns. And I have found that we agree on quite a few things. We do not agree on top 5s. So let's get into it. I have a top 10. You will get my top 5. So before we crack into the top 10, I'm going to take a sip of this dark roast delicious coffee. Oh, that's good. So some notables. We're going to do the tight end position. Some notables that didn't crack the top 10 are going to be Jared Cook and Eric Ebron. Ebron almost made my top 10. I think he's in a good position this year in Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger healthy. He had a breakout year a couple years ago and is going to make the notable list. My breakout candidates, I believe Benzie's top 10 pick was Blake Jarwin. He doesn't crack mine, but he is a notable for a breakout season, as well as TJ Hawkinson. Now let's get into the top 10. Number 10, Rob Gronkowski, the football player, not the wrestler. It's tough to know exactly where to put Gronk on the list because he was out all of last season. And the year before, he didn't look like himself. He had 47 catches, 682 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But with Brady and the Bucks, Gronk's going to be back to his video game self. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't bet against him. That's why he's my number 10, but no better than that. Number 9, Tyler Higbee, the Rams, Los Angeles Rams. I do love their jerseys. Everybody that's hating on them ain't got no style. Higbee came out of nowhere late in the 2019 season to establish himself as one of the most dynamic receiving threats at the position. He had a breakout game against the Cardinals in Week 11. He averaged 104 receiving yards per week down that stretch. He had an awesome catch rate, 69 of 89 targets. That's right, 69 catches. Higbee finished the season with 734 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Higbee falls into my number 9. Let's look at some of the comments here. We are an interactive show. Ed, Matt does a top 10. You do a top 5 with notables. So a top 10. No, Ed, it's my top 5. So you get my top 5, but I give you other ones too. We got to stretch it out, Ed. Come on, Chief. Jeez. Love the stats. Higbee's a bum. You know who's not a bum? Hunter Henry. When he stays healthy. The closest thing in the NFL today to Greg Olsen in his prime is Henry. Like Olsen, he's got soft little baby hands. He got 55 of 75 targets for 652 and 5 touchdowns in 12 games. He has been limited by injury, which is, again, while he's in the latter part of the top 10. But, Chief, not in my top 5. Number 7, Austin Hooper. The Browns got one of the league's most underrated tight ends when they signed Hooper to a 4-year, $42 million deal. Last season, he caught 75 of 97 targets for 787 and 6 touchdowns. The trouble with the Browns is you just never know how their offense is going to look. I mean, obviously, when you got Matt Ryan in that high-flying offense, he had a hell of a season. I mean, that's great for a tight end, but we will see. He is my number 7, and I think we'll have a good year. Number 6, Darren Waller. Waller was the unquestioned breakout tight end in 2019. This dude's a beast. He's like 6'15". He's huge. With a lack of weapons at wide receiver for the Raiders, Waller wound up getting a ton of attention. He caught 90 of 117 targets with 3 touchdowns and 1,145 yards. If you're in a PPR league, 90 catches, he's getting targets like receivers. Now for the Chief, my top 5. Let's get into it here. Number 5, Evan Ingram. Offensive coordinator Jason Garrett has always had amazing success with tight ends. And lucky for Evan Ingram, Garrett's there. He had 44 receptions for 467 yards and 3 touchdowns in only 8 games last season. Now, there's no denying Ingram is a dynamic playmaker and a top 5 pass-catching tight end in the NFL. If you get him healthy for a season, he's in the top 5. Number 4, Mark Andrews. This dude was nearly unstoppable last year. 15 games, 64 passes, 852 yards and 10 touchdowns. It doesn't feel that sustainable this year, but he's a beast. The Ravens are awesome. Lamar Jackson, number 2 quarterback. We'll get to that again when we steal it from Benzie's bit. Number 3, Zach Ertz. He has at least 40 of his catches have gone for first downs in each of the last 6 years. Over the last 3 seasons, Ertz has missed just 3 games and has 278 catches for 2,900 yards and 24 touchdowns. He's not that injury prone when he's just missed 3 games in 3 seasons. Number 2, George Kittle. He's become quite the little weapon over there in San Fran, totaling 2,400 yards, 10 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. He posted an incredible 602 yards after the catch, which is 3rd most in the NFL, but he is not my number 1. When you got Patty Mahomes as your quarterback, when you got the swag like Travis Kelce, he's only missed 2 games over the last 5 seasons and made the Pro Bowl in every single one of them. Dude's a beast. Nobody's topping him. That's my top 5. Not at 5. So every single episode, I like to, for the binge watchers out there, talk about a TV show review. All right, TV show review. This one hits home. It's one of my favorite shows of all times. It's Parenthood. Came out in 2010. It's a drama. It's 6 seasons. Little background. The 4 grown Braverman siblings, Adam, Sarah, Crosby, and Julia, share the joys, heartaches, and headaches of parenthood in their California hometown. As their parents deal with life and marital issues, the 4 lean on one another while tackling the challenges of modern family life in an updated reimagining of the 1989 film by the same name. I didn't know there was a film. I'm now going to watch that 1989. I'm sure it's a classic, Parenthood. So it was on NBC. It is now on Hulu for 6 seasons. So this is an hour-long show. You're sure to cry probably after every single episode. It's unbelievable. NBC did such a great job. We had 6 seasons of Parenthood. It ended. I was devastated. And then you know what they did? They gave us This Is Us. It's just the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you, NBC. So IMDb gives it an 8.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gives it an 88%, and TV.com gives it an 8.7 out of 10. 87% like this TV show, according to Google users. So basically, it's a can't miss. Now, like I said, it's one of my favorites of all time. I am going to give it a 9.7 out of 10. That's what I said, a 9.7 out of 10. And that is it for your TV show review. You better go home if you're at home after you watch Mike on the Mic, after you check out Twist for the 15th time, the first time, or the 100th time. Go watch Parenthood. All right, it's time for the spotlight. Now, this week, I grabbed something new. Some sunflower seeds. They're actually branded by Taco Bell. Taco Bell Taco Supreme. Now, I don't have a cup to spit them out of. Let's smell them first. Let's smell these. Oh, can you hear that? Oh, baseball's around the corner. So, I don't know how you eat your seeds. I just eat them. Oh my God. It tastes just like it. It's unbelievable. There's no olives in the picture either. I'm not an olive guy. Oh, if you like seeds and you like tacos, there you go, man. That's groovy. It's going to take me a minute because I don't spit them out. All right. Yum. Let's go deep diving. The deep dive this week is going to be the upcoming season of The Bachelor. Oh, man, I should have had something to spit this shit out. Former Wake Forest wide receiver Matt James will be the first black lead on The Bachelor. Wow, good for you, ABC. I wonder why. It couldn't be because of all the shit going on, huh? You couldn't have got one years ago? Unbelievable. Matt James will make history as the first black man to be the lead on The Bachelor. This series is in its 25th season and has been criticized, as it should be, for years, alongside The Bachelorette for being predominantly white. Those criticisms took on a renewed urgency as demonstrations continue around the nation for racial equality. James, 28, is only the second black person to be featured in the title role in the combined 40 seasons of the two shows. Unbelievable. James' career was best beset by injuries, and he played in 23 games across 4 seasons from 2011 to 2014. He took part in the Carolina Panthers rookie minicamp in 2015. Maybe The Bachelor could have gotten somebody a little bit more recognizable. He's not even that good looking. I wouldn't want his rose. And he currently works as a real estate broker, entrepreneur, and community organization founder. So, you take a deep dive into The Bachelor. And, yeah, don't eat the shells, bub. Oh, I do. Not good for you. I think they bleeped that one out because it is a, it's negative. You can't talk like that on this show. You can't say fuck or shit, man. It's naughty. All right. Well, that's my deep dive. We're going to end the show, like always, with a little random fact. Octopuses have 3 hearts. That's all the time I got for you. We'll see you next time.
We're going to go inside, we're going to go outside, inside, outside. We're going to get them on the run, boys. Once we get them on the run, we're going to keep them on the run. And then we're going to go. And we're not going to stop till we get across that goal line. This is Team Bay says. It's good. I think we're better than them. They can't lick us. What do you say, man?